and not pleasing ourselves, but doing what we think other people want, or what we think will make other people happy, or what we think will make them like us more. So we may be awakening to some of those qualities. Self-expression through creativity and love. That's a big part of Venus catching up to Mars in this whole time. Kind of fun.
Angel Heart Radio programs should not be used to replace your legal or medical advice, nor your own sound judgment. Welcome to Angel Heart Radio, where we inspire you to remember your magnificence. Join the conversation on our live streams. Head on over to Angel Heart Radio on Facebook. Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is brought to you by AngelLight777.com.
Hello everybody, I'm Annette McCoy, and it's my great pleasure to be back on Angel Heart Radio live after a few weeks of R&R. I'm delighted to say that Janet Hickox joins me today, as she always does at the beginning of the month, and we're going to be talking astrology. Janet, welcome.
Thank you very much, Annette. It is really good to be back. You know, in astrology, we often talk about, conjunctions of planets or the relationship between planets. For example, a square or a sextile or a conjunction or opposition. Those are just words that we use to tie together the relationship between two planets. And we always kind of have an idea about how long those kinds of transits are going to last. And those transits last when they're within orb. That's a term that we use in astrology. We just say that two planets are within orb of a conjunction, let's say. And that depends on the planet, but with Mars and Venus, the ones that we're going to be talking about today, the orb is about 6 degrees. And that means when they start to come within 6 degrees of one another, we start to talk about the pull of that conjunction. And then there's the time that they're in the conjunction. And then there's the time afterwards where they're separating from that conjunction. Almost every year we have this happening with Mars and Venus this year. And typically, by the way, it's about a 10-day period of time, right? Where they might be dancing around. I like to call it a dance because that's really what's happening. They're kind of dancing with one another. The masculine and the feminine principles, right? Mars, the masculine, Venus, the feminine. And they do that dance for about 10 days every year. And then a year like this year comes along where Venus is just newly emerged from her retrograde station. In fact, it was just January 28th, I believe. So just a few days ago. And when that happens, she's very slow right now, right? You see her in the morning sky and she's just barely perceptible in her movement. And that gives Mars a chance to catch up to her. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So right now they're closing in together as of February 1st. They're closing in together. And then they will literally do this dance all the way through March. So we have this extended period of time of these two coming together. So I thought it was a really important thing for us to understand, well, what is Mars? What is Venus? And what does it mean when they come together? And there's more than that. I mean, they're coming together and they're dancing together in a sign that's known for, sort of some concrete, sequential, step-by-step approaches. And that's the sign of Capricorn. So how do we take a step-by-step approach in our relationships, right? That's what we're thinking of here. How do we use this energy in a positive way? And oh, by the way, they're also going to come together with Pluto in the mix. And he's the great transforming principle, right? He's often going to take us on a journey through the ugly side of things in order to clean, regenerate, purify, and then start afresh. Not necessarily brand new, but certainly with some more clarity or with some more cleanliness kind of ideas, clean lines. And because Mars and Venus are representing our relationships, that means that for the foreseeable future, we might have some changes on board as it relates to the people in our lives. And not necessarily bad ones. I'm not saying it has to be bad. So nobody, I'm not telling you to expect like negative stuff in your relationships. Issues that have been there likely will come to the surface and will be ripe for either the breakup or the conversation that leads to a breakthrough. So breakup or breakthrough. Right. If you already have a strong relationship, though, you have nothing to worry about. This may, stimulate the next level of your intimacy level between one another in the relationship. So I don't want to give the impression that this is not a good thing, because in a way it really is. It clears the air pretty much in our relationships. And of course, Valentine's Day falls right in the middle of all of this.
Yes, it does. Now, Janet, I would like to welcome Debbie TT and Rashmi to the chat room. And Rashmi is saying that intense energies, usually I'm very active and healthy, but my body is asked to rest. I feel so knackered these days.
I was just thinking about this before you and I came on air at all. I mean, before I even logged in, I was thinking, wow, I feel sort of fatigued. What is that about? Because I'm a generator. I usually have all this energy. And I was dragging. I'm thinking, do I want a cup of coffee? Well, it's 3:00 in the afternoon, my time. I'm not sure that having a cup of coffee now is going to serve my purposes. So I just got some water to refresh myself. But I've been noticing that too. This high energy that we're running is having an effect on our bodies and our mental, physical, emotional energies. So, and our spiritual energy. So I feel like I'm right there with you, Rashmi. The body's feeling it.
Yes. And it's interesting, isn't it, Janet, for us to be aware of that. I've got a girlfriend who is suffering vertigo at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I said, your body's telling you to rest. And I found that when I suffered that at one stage, looking back, I can see that I was stressed. New mum, a 6-week-old baby. And I was denying the fact that, yes, I was finding it stressful. So my body was sending me
it was sending you very distinct messages. Slow it down, girl.
Exactly. So yeah. Rashmi and Janet, thank you for reminding us to tune into our bodies and to respond. And sometimes it might simply be how much water have I had in the last hour or two? Or it might be a case of, yes, I have been rushing around, or I have been feeling stressed, letting things get to me rather than looking at, okay, what am I dealing with? How is it best to deal with it?
Yeah. And, there have been some rather stressful transits, and the world itself representing the outpicturing of all of that stressfulness, right? So it's in our outer world that we're seeing it. And I think at various times, we're either in tune with that frequency or we're fighting that frequency. And when we're in tune with that frequency, if the energies are low or it's more quiet energy, then we become more quiet. But sometimes, our lives are telling us, oh, you've got to be on air. You've got to do this. You have to, prepare this. And we find ourselves at cross purposes to the energies. Now, we have some really good news, right? Tomorrow, when Mercury turns back to direct motion, thank you, all the planets will be in forward motion from then until April 29th. That'll be the first day that we have another planet that turns retrograde. So the energy gates are opening wide, right, for us to really make progress over those next few months. A couple of, what is it, April? So this is February, March, April. So at least 2 full months, 3 full months, because it's the end of April, that we have a sign that says, all systems go, right? We don't, there's nothing telling us that we got to slow it down. So we are naturally going to have to watch our own energies. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be stressful things that are going on or transits that create upheaval and things like that, because that's not true. There's definitely a lot out there going on. But the idea behind having, 3 months at least of all forward motion means that we can maybe make some strides where things have been felt mucked up or, stick in the mud, can't get things moving. maybe we actually can get some traction and do some things and make some things happen, which would be really nice for a change.
It would be. May I go back to some comments that are coming through, because we've got people in the chat room. And Maz Barnes says she's been aware that her body is teaching her for a long, long time. Yay, good on you, Maz. And Carol says that, where was she saying? Of course, Chinese New Year, new energies.
Yes. And the new moon, because of the new moon, that's when Chinese New Year was.
Yeah, because Debbie was saying to us, Happy Groundhog Day and Chinese New Year. So there's lots of really good feeling in our chat room today. And people are showing us that, yes, they're aware of what's going on in the world. And thank you all for your contributions, because we're all bringing little interesting parts, aren't we? So the new moon, Janet.
Yeah, the new moon was a pretty powerful new moon for everybody. It doesn't really matter what sign you are. It was one that was activating both Uranus and Saturn, right? Our Uranus Saturn square that we've been enduring for the whole of 2021 is still there. It's not as active at this moment. They're separated by about 4 degrees. But the energies of change are upon us, and what has been started in 2021 is continuing. The difference now is that with all planets that for most of 2021 were in retrograde motion, with them now in forward motion, things might come to a conclusion faster. So I can think of all different kinds of ways in which this can play out. But personally, I think that we all are in the driver's seat for a time being and get to steer the vehicle in the direction that we want to go. And you have all the power in the world to do that by focusing your thoughts, your mind, your heart, and your emotions on what is possible or what you desire, and leaving behind the old voices that tell you what you can't have or what you don't deserve or what's not possible. So it's going to be a change, I think, for us. And of course, what happens when we decide to change? Things blow up or fall apart or what have you. So expect that too. But that's kind of the excitement of living life right now in these times, is that there's this unexpected nature of things. We can't say with complete 100% logic what's going to happen, and I find that kind of fun. We were talking this morning on my show about the gate 61, which is up in the head center. And it's the one of the gates that Venus and Mars are going to be dancing through for an extended period of time. And the gate 61 is called the gate of inner truth. Well, isn't that interesting that everybody's inner truth can be different, right? We were just talking about, this whole idea of cancel culture and how people, like the idea of, or I don't even know where, I was thinking of the astrology of this, like, where did this come from? This idea of, if you don't like what I say, then I'm just going to cancel you out, right? You're not going to be on my show. You're not going to be allowed, I'm going to pull my music off Spotify. And I think it does all of us a disservice. It makes us all, my comment to somebody about it was, what are we all, imbeciles or what? Right? Am I so imbecilic that I can't make my own decision about what to listen to, that I'm so threatened by something, say, Joe Rogan might be saying that goes against maybe my own beliefs, that I have to have you take him off your show because if you don't, I'm pulling my music and blah, blah, blah. Now, having said that, I also value that everybody has the right to choose how they want to be, how they want to show up in the world. I just don't like the idea of using this cancel culture idea to not let people be responsible for themselves or to choose, what's right for them. And in some, sort of bizarre way, Venus and Mars coming together are driving some of that, right? They're both inner planets, and inner planets affect us individually. So while the outer planets, say like Pluto and Saturn and and Neptune, Uranus, they're impacting the collective. So it's a bigger picture, a bigger, wider lens. But when Mars and Venus and the moon and the sun and Mercury are up to games, then it brings it into each one of us, right? So this is going to be about each one of us and the choices that we want to make. The two of them coming together, Mars and Venus, they're very creative, right? You've got the masculine principle of moving outward and the feminine principle of moving inward and seeing things from the inner perspective. And you bring those together and, it's totally creative. It's the blending of the two big energies, the masculine and the feminine energies, in a positive way. And it holds a lot of potential for us, I think. And that's kind of exciting. I find it exciting that these two are going to do this.
Absolutely. Janet, you mentioned your show, and I'd like people to know more about that, because I know that you're on. Now, this is American time, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And so that equates to Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for us here in Australia. However, of course, we can listen in if we miss it live, because I do believe it's at 3 a.m. my time here in Melbourne. So if I don't happen to be awake, then I can listen to it later. So it's on the Living Astrology Facebook page.
Right. My Living Astrology Facebook page and my YouTube channel, Living Astrology, by the same name. So you can, if you're a YouTuber, you can join me with YouTube. If you like Facebook better, you can join me on Facebook. And in either case, I take that broadcast and I also put it into podcast format, and it broadcasts at 11 a.m. on Blog Talk Radio, my time, 11 a.m. So that would be a little better suited. That's still pretty early your time. But either way you look at it, those broadcasts are all recorded. And anytime you go back to the Facebook page or the YouTube channel, you're going to find it and you can re-listen. And what's new for me this year is the Wednesday, because I ended out for most of 2021, I think I did Mondays and Fridays. And I added Wednesday back in because people were hitting me up all the time about interviewing people for books they've written or healing methods and things like that. And I went, well, why not put Wednesday back in and use it for a day to interview interesting people or to have a focused topic. And that's what I'm doing. So today we were on air talking about February's energies. And I was doing that with Tam Vayu, who is the creator, author, co-author, co-creator with a whole team of us for the Energy Almanac. So, which is a yearly periodical. So it's fun to be able to do that and to talk to interesting people. So 3 days now, Monday and Friday, it's purely astro design, talking about human design, astrology, gene keys, etc. Wednesdays is a kind of hybrid day.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Now, Rashmi has made more comments.
Okay.
When something triggers us, we need to dive deep inside and find out what it is that is within us that is not healed and still responding to that trauma that's making us be part of this cancel culture.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I found it interesting because I happen to be on Facebook, and I hardly ever go to Facebook because of all that snipey kind of thing, that rhetoric that happens. But I happened to be going there because I wanted to let everybody know I was going to be here shortly. And I saw a comment by a fellow astrologer about pulling things off of Spotify and, thanking Spotify for what they, or thanking Neil Young, and who was the other one? There was another one that pulled their work off of Spotify. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing, because one of, for Neil Young, one of his songs is about living in a free world. Well, I guess it is a free world if you can pull your music off, but are you pulling your music off to kind of hold a company like Spotify hostage to another show that they have that you don't like? And that's the issue with this cancel culture. Are we trying to make other people bend to our own will, to make us all, be alike, and forgetting that, you know what, you always have the option to not listen.
Absolutely.
Like, don't listen. If you don't like the shows on Spotify, go somewhere else. I mean, you have that choice. You don't have to demand that they take that show off. Don't listen to Joe Rogan if you don't like Joe Rogan. Don't listen to Neil Young songs if you don't like Neil Young, but don't make me have to miss that music on that platform because of it. It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Well, it reminds me, Janet, of Rosemary Butterworth's comment. And it's about our own thoughts. If we're concerned about our own thoughts, change the channel.
Mm-hmm.
So, it comes back, as Rashmi was saying, comes back to us, doesn't it? And how we respond to whatever might be happening.
Right. Our own personal responsibility. And that's really where the power lies. I think that's something that we've been missing. We're still looking outside of us for somebody else to do justice or to make things right. And, if you want to live in a free world, then you have to accept that there are going to be people out there saying things that you don't necessarily agree with. And that doesn't make them wrong. Right? It doesn't make them wrong at all. I would say that Joe Rogan has just as much free choice and free will to speak his mind in the way he sees fit as Neil Young or anybody else has to speak theirs and to do what's right for them. So, but I feel like sometimes the companies are caught in the middle, right? How do I make them both happy? How do I make them both happy without losing listeners or, advertisers or it's a big thing. It's a big thing right now and something that we're having to work through. I would say that's one of the dark night sort of energies that we're contending with. And hopefully we're turning the corner around this. I think more and more people are questioning, like, why are you doing that? Why? I can choose for myself. So we're growing up. And that's part of the process too, is right. We are evolving and consciousness as it evolves becomes more responsible. And we just have to know that we're still in the throes of that evolving of consciousness. We're not all the way evolved yet. I think we have a ways to go individually as well as collectively. But that's all part of our experience here.
That's right. That's why we're here.
So let's take a little bit of a look at what Venus and Mars represent, because I think that helps us understand about this conjunction and the long-lasting nature of it. Venus, of course, represents relationships as far as love is concerned, right? So affection and beauty and harmony in those relationships. And it's the feminine energy. So it's also more giving and more open to receiving love and affection, and romance is also a part of her. So she's the softer side of love. When we look at Mars, Mars is the more masculine side of love. It's not that he's not romantic or that he's not able to show affection, but there's raw sexuality there, right? There's this very masculine energy within Mars. He's a warrior god, and his nature is different than Venus's. But when they come together, Venus has sort of the ability to temper that Mars aggression or assertiveness, while Mars can spark Venus into a little more wildness, I would say, right? So we have the potential then in our relationships for, some kind of spark to be happening here. Now, it can be a positive spark where we are like, making goo eyes at one another and are more attracted to one another, or we can suddenly see more exquisitely the things that are different between us or the problems that lie in our relationships and see that we have this need to have to work through things. So both things can be true, right? That, there can be kiss and make up after the fight, but there can also be the fight that, we're turning our backs on one another. That kind of part of the experience of these two coming together is a part of growing in the relationship. But they also rule more than just the relationships. Venus herself rules finances, right? Money. So I would expect that maybe Venus and Mars coming together sees some financial movement, maybe extending out maybe the inflation that's happening, the stock market being impacted maybe by it. I can't tell you whether that's a good impact or not, but I can tell you that financially, the markets, the banking, the mortgages, and all of that can be impacted by Venus and Mars coming together. And Venus also rules our values, how we value ourselves, but also the values by which we live our lives. We were just talking about values. Really, in the end, what I was talking about there is if you value freedom, then why are you censoring people? Right? So you're not, that's a mismatch in the values, right? If your stated value is liberty and freedom for all, well, then you can't also be trying to make a company take out one of the shows that you don't like because you don't like it. That's not freedom. So again, we are still in a process of realigning our values. And then, Mars is also an action principle. So he's moving us forward, and he can sometimes be quite impulsive love, impulsive changes that are going on. So that's possible as well. And then when, in a minute, we're going to look at the difference between Venus conjuncting Mars and Mars conjuncting Venus, because I said earlier, they're doing a dance. And the initial connection comes from Mars catching up to Venus, and then Venus eventually catching back up to Mars. So they're changing places during this process of time. And there's a little bit of difference between how they play out that way. Then we also need to look at the sign that they are making this conjunction in, because that tells us the where of the coming together is going to play out. Capricorn is not, by design or by tradition, a very sexy or love-oriented sign. Capricorn actually rules more like corporations, our professions, our careers, how we own our authority, our worldly presence. So we find Mars and Venus, the love principles, in a sign that's not necessarily about love and relationship, but can very much be a positive influence in getting to the core of whatever it is that's maybe wrong in a relationship, or getting to the core of what's right in the relationship, keeping it steering to a place where it's on course and where each person within the relationship has their own authority or their own authentic voice, their own authentic self. You have to remember, Capricorn as a sign is ruled by the planet Saturn. So sometimes there's a comeuppance that goes on here. There's a karmic connection here with Mars and Venus in this part of the chart. So wherever you personally out there have Capricorn in your chart, that is where the conjunction is going to take place. And it's actually going to take place on February 16th at 16 degrees Capricorn. That's the exact, but it's in process even now, building up to that conjunction. That's the day that the exact is, and then it moves a little bit further away, but then Venus begins to speed up. So then she's going to catch up with Mars. So that again is how the whole idea of a dance comes about, because these two are just doing this, catching up thing going on. Now when you go ahead,
when that convergence happens, is that going to be more intense than the lead up and the after?
I think, honestly, Annette, I think sometimes the leading up to is almost where the action is happening. I know astrologers are often very keen on the date that the exact happens. And if the exact doesn't happen, then the conjunction didn't take place. Well, that's BS. I call BS on that, because there have been many times in my life when a planet is approaching another planet, but never maybe gets to the exact degree and minute of the other planet, that my life is being shaken up by whatever that other planet is bringing. So yeah, think about Mercury retrogrades, right? Almost everybody will tell you, dang, this whole week has just been terrible. Well, it's the lead up to the Mercury retrograde. Then Mercury retrogrades and things tend to sort of smooth out a little bit. It's maybe not as chaotic until he turns direct. And then everything's chaotic again in the time period just post that change. So I feel like sometimes, not always, but I feel like a lot of the times it's the lead up that starts to bring things into crystal clarity, that where the discomfort is, or the ill at ease feeling, like I've got to deal with something, or something's coming up, or maybe it's something good, right? I feel like something good is coming this way. And then, you have the exact, and it may be the highlight or not. And then you have the settling out afterwards. But I feel like this is going to be a lengthened period of time that we might be dealing with issues of Mars and Venus. So let's do the first one, Mars conjunct Venus, and how he differs from Venus conjunct Mars. Because it is a little bit different, right? Mars conjuncting Venus brings a strong sexual energy to a relationship. So it is that sex appeal, right? We may not have an intimacy level built up, but I see you, you see me, sparks fly, and boom, right? We fall into bed together, perhaps. And that kind of sexual relationship often doesn't last. Right? It was just a physical attraction. So that's a possibility. There's also strong ego drive that Mars has, that he carries into Venus when he does that conjunction with her. So we may suddenly have a clash of egos with our closest people that we're involved with. But all of our creative energies are aroused and brought to the surface during this period of time too, right? Especially the physical expression of our creativity. So it might be a great time for performing, for dancing, for exercise, for competition, competitive sports, that type of thing. Interesting, because the Super Bowl, our big football game of the year, is happening on February 13th, I believe it is. And that's just like right as Mars and Venus are connecting. It'd be interesting to do an astrology look at both teams. One team is called the Bengals, Tigers, right? How funny, in the year of the tiger. I would say luck is on their side. The other team, oh gosh, the Rams. Right. I shouldn't probably say that, since I'm a West Coaster and the Rams are from the West Coast, but I'm not sure that the kudos are on their side. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. But again, which team is going to show the most physical and the most competitive streak is the team that's going to win, right? Because of the nature of these energies. Meeting a new person or someone new in your life during this kind of coming together emphasizes the more physical side of the relationship, not just the friends kind of relationship. This kind of goes right down to the sexual side of the relationship quite rapidly. And often then later, when the conjunction clears, so does the attraction from that relationship. So we want to be very aware of what might happen during this time, right? You might be very sexually, physically attracted to somebody, but then the meeting of the hearts doesn't quite happen. Is that worth keeping as a long-term relationship? Well, it might keep it going for a couple of months of steaminess, and then it will fizzle out as soon as that conjunction energy begins to wane. So we want to be very careful about what we get into there. Now, when Venus runs into Mars, right? So we have this other angle, because she's going to run into Mars after the first time. There's a very strong female-male attraction. And it doesn't have to be sexual. It can be, friendship, or it can be just, being attracted to qualities in the opposite sex that you yourself might feel like you don't carry, or that you aren't very strong within you. We might become more assertive in our relationships. Mars, again, is adding some energy here to Venus. So if Venus is typically, if your Venus planet, if your own natal Venus is in a more coquettish place, let's say like maybe she's in Libra or in, maybe a shy or Cancer kind of position in your chart, well, you're going to be bitten by the more assertive bug. And you may decide, well, I want that person in my life, so I'm going to become more assertive. We are also looking for more of a satisfying relationship, not just the physical edge, but the more intimacy, emotional connection, meeting on the mental planes even. Unfortunately, there can also be the awakening within us that we've been seeking approval from others and not pleasing ourselves, but doing what we think other people want, or what we think will make other people happy, or what we think will make them like us more. So we may be awakening to some of those qualities. Self-expression through creativity and love. That's a big part of Venus catching up to Mars in this whole time. Kind of fun.
Yeah, I like all of that. Getting to know ourselves better and knowing listening to really what we want, and being able to be strong enough to stand in our own power and belief rather than being swayed by other people because we want to be loved.
Yes. Yeah. And we've just spent about 6 weeks worth of time with Venus in retrograde. And all of us, no matter how Venus looks in your own natal chart, all of us have been going through a values reimagination or reorganization or a reevaluation. So I think in some ways we've all been looking at, what do I want in my life? What no longer suits me? What is worth pursuing? What's worth not pursuing anymore? Or what isn't worth pursuing anymore? So the two of these planets coming together with both of them in forward motion means that we might be able to see our way forward in a planned sort of way. I know that sounds very not sexy, but the two of them are coming together at a gate in human design. The first coming together is at the gate 54, which is on the root center, which is a pressure that builds up within us to go out and succeed, right? So there may be people feeling the pressure to get into a relationship. I'll never forget my brother-in-law years ago felt like this pressure, like he had to get married before he was 30 years old. He kept telling himself, I have to get married by 30. And we kept looking at him going, well, settling for someone just because you're going to be 30 this year makes no sense. But that was this, constant thing that he had going on in his head, and the pressure, right? So then sometimes what we do is we get ourselves involved in things. It could be projects, it can be relationships that we were pressured into, but not necessarily choosing of, if we had it all to do again, would we still do it kind of question. Right. So the pressure is building at the gate 54 for us to go out and achieve something. That might be success in your career, depends on where Capricorn is in your chart. But Capricorn does rule the career profession sector in the natural zodiac wheel. So we always are going to have this drive to achieve, right? That's part of that Capricorn experience. But in your own personal chart, depending on the house it's in, your drive to achieve might be placed in a different way. For example, someone with maybe Capricorn on the 5th house is driven to find romance, to find love, to find creativity, but not necessarily to settle down with that romantic partner. They want the romance, but maybe not the commitment. Right. On the other side, the 7th house, if you have Capricorn on the 7th house, you're driven to commitment in a marriage type thing, or in a very solid one-on-one relationship. If you have this going on, let's say in your 11th house, you might be driven to pursue a dream or a vision that you've had. So the creative energies, the loving energies, the relationship energies are all going to be a little bit different based on where Capricorn is in your chart, but also how is it that your human design is built around the gate 54? Is it defined, meaning you always are ambitious and this is going to give you some more ambition and drive? Is it something that's open in your chart? You don't have the gate 54. So where you might at times have ambition and drive. Now you might have a lot more ambition and drive for 2 months. So it depends again on your own chart. You have to know yourself, because what I'm talking about is the more general terms of how it'll play out. What if you have other planets in Capricorn that these two are going to sit on top of? That's going to change how your experience of Mars and Venus coming together is. But by far and away, chances are we're going to feel inspired to move toward a relationship, or to move toward building something, or to move toward an ambition, a dream, a goal, then more so than we have in a while, right? That's kind of the exciting part of all of this. Now, from February 26th through 28th, we are going to have what in astro terms we call a stellium of planets that are building up in Capricorn. I mean, as if Mars and Venus and Mercury's there right now, and Pluto aren't enough to be in Capricorn. We're going to add the moon to Capricorn on those couple of days. And that's at that point, Mercury will have moved on to Aquarius. So the moon kind of fills in where Mercury left, and she brings the emotions to play. So now we have emotional, right? So now we get the emotions involved with Venus and Mars and Pluto just about 2 or 3 days away from their exact conjunction, the big triple conjunction of the year, when we get Mars, Venus, and Pluto all in a conjunction and in Capricorn, and sparks can fly, big change can happen, transformation. It's scary, delicious, exciting, but daunting. Can I use all those words? I mean, because I think people are, depending on where it is in their chart, feeling it in a variety of different emotions may be coming to the surface during that period of time. Yeah. Now, that triple conjunction, if you want to know where that occurs, is at 27 degrees of Capricorn. So if you have, like, my own natal Saturn sits at 28 degrees of Capricorn. So the three of them are all going to gather together on top of my natal Saturn. Should I be scared?
Wow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a, I don't know what to think about that, because it's never happened to my knowledge in my life that then I know it hasn't happened because Pluto has not conjuncted Saturn before in my life. But now they're running into one another. And what does that mean? Well, I don't know, but I'm not going to worry about it, because all I have to do is respond to what is showing up in my world, whatever that turns out to be. I mean, my husband and I have been together for 40 years. I doubt seriously it's going to be something to do with our relationship breaking up, right? It might be the deepening of a relationship. It could be the expansion of our relationship into some new way of being. I don't know, but I'm not scared about it.
Good for you.
Yeah, but 27 degrees, what new heights are we reaching? That's a question we could be asking. What new heights am I reaching for in the area of the chart that it is showing up in? Through hard work, through processing your own, our own doo-doo, through taking being willing to go through whatever it is you need to go through. I think that's how we win the day in this kind of a transit. And then Mars and Venus again come back to each other at 0 degrees of Aquarius on March 6th. By the way, that triple conjunction was March 3rd. I'm not sure if I said the date. But March 6th, they will again come together for their last exact conjunction for this year at 0 Aquarius. Does that degree sound familiar to some of you out there? It should, right? Because this is where Jupiter and Saturn came together on winter solstice 2020 and began a new epoch of air energy domination, which means that there is likely another step toward our really seeing the air kingdom become more pronounced. And the air kingdom is about ideas and inspiration and possibilities and anything to do with air, sharing, the internet and technologies that support communication and what have you. So the air energy of 0 degrees Aquarius is just getting another little punch now by Jupiter having been there, Saturn having been there, and now Venus and Mars. And I'm just going to give you all a little heads up. Next January, Pluto moves to 0 Aquarius. That's huge, right? Because he stays in a sign for 15 to 20 years. He's been in Capricorn since, I want to say, the fall of 2008. Maybe it was the winter of 2008. So a long time. And so we're letting go of some of this Capricorn energy and really, really moving in more strongly and more powerfully into the air energy of Aquarius. So I think right now, all of these planets that have been building up in Capricorn, it's kind of the Capricorn last hurrah as we're slowly going to be releasing that Capricorn energy in favor of Aquarian energy. So we begin to look more toward the future, more toward sustainability and preserving what's good, what's right, what's possible. And it is an air sign. Aquarius is air. So we're talking about ideas and innovation and inventions and sharing and humanitarianism and some really, really good energies. So I think Venus and Mars, watch what goes on in your own life at around early March, late February, early March, because it's going to give us an idea. It's going to give you an idea of where these energies are pulling you as we move forward into this year, but also set up for 2023.
I think we have to hold on to the magic carpet, don't we?
Right. That's funny. I have a magic carpet picture up here on my wall. I mean, Genie and his little girlfriend with him together on the magic carpet, flying out across the landscape.
Gorgeous. I always think of that. Now, Gail has joined us, Janet, and she's
Gail.
looking. She apparently she just adores you, and she'll listen to the replay because she realizes that she came in later in the program.
Yes.
And of course, isn't it wonderful? We have, for people who have been listening or watching, they might go, oh, I think I'd like to hear that bit again. And of course we can by going to Angel Heart Radio, whether it be the Facebook page or YouTube, and you can listen, watch again, and that's
again and again. Right, because people just love to hear us over and over again.
Well, you have so much information. Sometimes I sort of go, oh my goodness, I don't think I took all of that in. So it's really lovely to be able to re-watch. And if people are discovering you for the first time, unlike Gail, they can go to your website and have a very good look, and also ask for a free
chart,
human design chart. Yes. Yep. So it's let me see, living-astrology.com.
Correct. Exactly right. And indeed, you can get a free astrology chart and report, or you can get both if you want. You can get your human design chart and report, so that you can understand yourself a little bit more. And I know astrology and human design both are kind of complex. It's almost, a different language. I try not to use a lot of lingo, but I can't help it, right? There's how else do you describe, two planets coming together except to use the word conjunction? So I try to keep it easy to understand, but be patient with yourself. If you're new to all of this, just be patient. You'll learn it. You'll learn what some of these things mean. Feel it, right? Feel it viscerally in here. Does it resonate in here? And start. The best way to start is to understand how this affects you is by getting your chart and your report, so you have an idea. You're building the framework. I always tell my listeners that you probably should have a notebook. I have a notebook. I have several of them, but I have this, my notebook that you can't see. For some reason, my camera is behaving badly. Oh, because I have the blur on. I'm the only one that's supposed to be in crystal clarity. Everything else isn't. But anyway, I tell them to have a book where they have their own chart in it, and maybe their transits and the human design chart and their human design information, so that when we are talking about these kinds of things, you can look quickly and go, oh, I see Capricorn is on my 8th house. So what does that mean for me? It begins the conversation that you can have, the decoding, if you will, of your own chart and what all of these things mean for you. That's why I do this, so you can learn. I don't want you to just always have to depend on me. I want you to learn how to tap into what's correct for you. And, there are a lot of ways that we can talk about these different transits and planets. They have multiple meanings, and it's going to be different for everybody. So the general information is what I can give in a show like this, or in one of my broadcasts. A reading brings it in personally, or you learning it for yourself brings it in personally, so you can understand you.
And of course, Janet, if people would like an in-depth, reading or
personal session,
yes, they can reach out to you for one of those as well.
Right.
And Pammy very kindly has put your website up in the chat. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very nice. So last thing here with the last conjunction, the last exact conjunction for the year at 0 degrees Aquarius, that puts these two in our human design at the gate 60. And is that right? Hold, please. I want to take a look, because now I'm questioning my own sanity here. Right. I wrote the wrong gate. I didn't. It is the right gate, 60. So sorry, guys. For a moment, I was questioning it. So the gate 60 is on the root center as well. We were talking about the root center being a center of pressure, and the pressure to move outward from this still point to the point of action. And the gate 54 was their first conjunction, and that was happening at the gate of ambition or drive. But the gate 60 is about innovation, but it's also about limitation. Whoa, right? I hate that word. And every time I say that word, I want to scream. But I'm learning to make peace with it, because limitation is also where we have the boundaries, where we have the ability to build the foundation, the structure or the form that's going to support the innovation. If we don't have that first, then we don't have anything that's going to support the growth or the change. So I'm making peace with the word limitation, because it's being used in this way as a sense of building something so that it's going to last, right? Innovation is great, but if it's built on sand, it doesn't have any teeth, right? It doesn't have any, staying power. And it's one of the gate sets of Aquarius, and Aquarius is looking to the future. So we're building for the future. And in order to do that, we have to satisfy Saturn, who's one of the co-rulers of Aquarius. And we can't just go willy-nilly into something. We have to have something that we can build upon that's going to last. So with Venus and Mars coming upon that degree, I think it'll be the wake-up call that helps us to see whether we've built our relationships on sand, or have we built them on a solid foundation? Have we built our value system on the sand or on the solid foundation? Have we built our financial world on something solid or on shaky ground? So, and if so, that gives us the opportunity, if either way, yay, we have something to grow from, or oh boo, I'm going to have to rethink this. Right. And I have this opportunity to rethink, to rebuild, to reimagine, to reestablish what it is that I want to do. But I think we've had a lot of time to go through that reevaluation period. So maybe this is the time for us to really be able to take steps forward in powerful ways. So I'm excited.
Oh, absolutely. So am I. Now, Pammy says limitation. Does that mean declutter?
Funny thing, Pammy. I went into my drawer, my file drawer right here the other day, because I needed to find somebody's chart. So I keep everybody's charts. Like I had a file this thick of people's charts. And I thought to myself, what in the bleep are you doing? Why are you doing that? I mean, I had charts going back to 2016 in there. I went, okay, wait. So now they're all over here on the floor waiting to be shredded because I don't want to put people's birth information out there in my trash or my recycling for other people to find. So I'm like, okay, yes, decluttering sometimes is the thing that we have to do. That is a limitation, right? Or setting up at the foundation. I'll have much more room in my drawer to put other files instead of stacking them here next to me if I do that. Mm-hmm. So it could be little stupid things like that. I mean, that was, it never dawned on me that I was saving a bunch of charts that I probably, maybe saving a year's worth is good, but why would I save 5 or 6 years worth of charts? I don't know. Yours was even in there. Not that it's been that long since we did a reading, but it's just amazing. I start flipping through them and going, oh yeah. It's too funny. So yes, declutter. That was a long answer to say, yes, maybe declutter. Maybe focus in. Focus is another word we could use, right? Maybe focusing in on what's of most importance and not all the frivolous fluff, but going right to the heart of something. Reaching new heights. Sometimes we couldn't fly to the moon until we had a rocket that could sustain a rocket ship that could make that trip, right? So sometimes you have to build the pieces in order to make the trip. So going to new heights does require the limiting of something in order to build what it is we need to sustain the innovation or the inventiveness that we can get to with that gate, with that combination of these planets.
Build on the rock and not upon the sand.
Correct. Unless it's sand, compacted sand. I mean, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine sand standing through water, right? Being able to, but I guess if sand has been turned into glass, that might be stronger than sand.
True.
Yes. So anyway, it's going to be a good time. And if anybody has any questions about how this will affect them, you can certainly reach out. You can email me through my website and ask questions, or maybe it's time to get a reading and brush up your chart.
Yes. Yeah. And for the people who are joining for the first time, please take Janet up on her offer of a free chart. It's a way that we can expand our knowledge. And astrology fascinates me, Janet, because it backs up what's happening in life. And as you have explained, gives us the opportunity to look forward with open eyes and no fear, just excitement. Wow, what is possible in the coming times?
And this is quite the year, but I think in a more positive way than maybe the last couple of years have been. I still think we have work to do, and that makes me kind of excited too, because who doesn't want to see how far they've come and evolved through the years? So come evolve with me, with Annette, with Angel Heart Radio, with Living Astrology.
There's so much, isn't there, for us to delve into?
So much,
Janet,
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Annette. It's great to see you.
Oh, it's always delightful. As you know, I thoroughly enjoy being on Angel Heart Radio. I delight in being with the people who, my gorgeous guests, such as yourself, every month. And so thank you, everybody, for joining us. Janet,
Take care.
It'll be fascinating, won't it, to see in retrospect how February pans out when we're talking in
March.
Hey,
it'll be the same day in March, won't it?
Yes.
March always does that for us. It allows us to see the same day. Everything's on the same day. Same day of the week, I should say.
That's right. Yeah.
So we'll be together again on March 2nd.
Yes.
And happy Palindrome Day, 2222.
Oh, see, you're still in 222. We had that yesterday. Wow.
Oh, that's right. I time traveled. I had to go to the future, but I was really in the past. That'll twizzle your head.
It always does at my head. You're
Time
in
zone
yesterday, and I'm in your tomorrow.
Right. No, wait. I'm in your yesterday. I'm in your
and I
can't even.
Whatever.
I can't even. My mind doesn't want to go there. But time travel we have.
We do. Bye, Janet.
Take care. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
A pleasure. And just before I go, I'd like to remind you all that, yes, I'm going to be back next week, and Marnie Perner will be joining us for a session based in kinesiology. Again, listening to our body. So much love, everyone. Thank you so much. And may you put your best foot forward and bring love to yourself and to everyone you deal with. Bye for now.
Bye.
You've been listening to another fabulous program on Angel Heart Radio. Our goal is to remind you of how much you matter in the world and to let you know that we appreciate who you are in the world. Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools. They are not intended, nor should they, be used to replace your medical or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed by Angel Heart Radio hosts, guests, co-hosts and associates should not be construed as advice from Angel Heart Radio.